Hello, welcome back to Unveiling the Spirit. And today I want to talk about 5 things that I decided that I'm going to stop doing or start doing since this whole Black Lives Matter movement started. I think this movement has, of course, it has affected the country. It has been one of the most profound movements in American history, let alone just world history in general. I've heard so many people saying that never in their lifetimes or they can remember people protesting all over the world for human rights and equality. That's really a special thing that's going on. And so I think it's affected a lot of people. I think it's affected some whites to help them see that if they didn't think that they were racist or prejudiced, that they see that they are now. I think it has helped a lot of whites realize that racism is still a very prominent issue in our country. And I also think it has helped blacks to understand how much racism actually affects our everyday life, because you go through something all the time, it sometimes loses its importance in a way. And I don't want to say importance just because you kind of get used to it. You know, if you grew up in a dysfunctional home, dysfunction is normal to you, and you don't really realize how dysfunction is until you get out of that setting. And so it's kind of like a little bit has had that kind of effect on me, because in a lot of ways I've kind of dealt with some things, but now getting a little bit of a peek outside of the door of what it means to live outside of a society that functions this way has brought a lot of things to my mind that I want to start putting into practice in my life. So I have 5 things, and after you guys hear my 5 things, I'm curious to know how all of this may have possibly affected you in your life and your friends and your family and things like that. So please feel free to comment or send me emails and things like that. I would love to, know what other people are going through. I really like to hear people's stories about lives and about life and transformation and things like that. So please share. So the 5 things. The first thing is I am going to stop accepting racism. And I just said a little bit ago. And sorry, I do get tongue-tied a lot in these videos, which I don't understand why, because when I'm talking, I don't do that. Anybody who knows me will tell you that when I'm passionate about something, I can talk. But when I am doing these videos, for some reason, I get tongue-tied a lot, and it's kind of annoying. But if you see me doing that, just ignore it. I'll clean it up. So anyway, so I'm going to stop accepting racism because, like I said a little bit ago, when you get used to living in dysfunction, you don't really realize it's dysfunction. And for a long time, I have dealt with a lot of the racism and stuff that I have come into contact with. And even though it didn't seem that way at the time, I just accepted it. Like, you can't expect things to change. You can't expect life to change if you don't do anything about it. And a lot of times when you don't say anything, you are actually empowering the people who are perpetrating it by not bringing it to light. Even the Bible talks about this when it says to not even talk about what wicked people do in secret, but instead expose it. We have to expose these things. We have to talk about them, even if they make us uncomfortable, or the people who are perpetuating it. Of course, they're going to be even more uncomfortable, if not upset. But we have to stop accepting it. And that's what I have decided that I'm going to stop doing, because, again, in a lot of ways I did. So if someone was following me around the store, or accusing me or being surprised that I was intelligent, or accusing me of lying or stealing, or just not giving me the benefit of the doubt in general, especially being put over by the police. I have never said in my entire life, you are treating me, you are racial profiling me, you are being racist, you are treating me this way because I'm black. Those words have never come out of my mouth. I just dealt with it, and I just tried my best to somehow ignore it and move on and just focus on my life and not be overly concerned with what a racist person is thinking or doing, as long as it's not directly affecting me. But it was affecting me, and those interactions that I talked about in my other video is proof that it was affecting me. And so it was almost like I was kind of choosing to not necessarily put my head in the sand, but it was my coping mechanism. And I think I did that a lot of the times because I felt that I couldn't do anything about it. And so you are also in this society, and I don't think this is just with whites, because I've heard some whites say they are raised to not talk about race. I think blacks are also raised in a sense not to talk about it with white people because we feel like they're not going to listen, they're not going to care, they're not going to change. Just do your best to deal with it and move forward and do better with the rights that we now have as opposed to our ancestors, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years ago to take advantage of what we have now and do better with our lives. And so that's what I was doing. But I'm not going to do that anymore. So if I feel like I'm being treated a certain way due to the color of my skin or my race, I'm going to say something. Now, I know in doing that, it has the potential to create controversy or confrontation, and I have to deal with that. I have to accept that because what is the alternative? I can't be upset about, living in a racist society if I'm not even willing to speak up on it. So I have to speak up on it. I have to take the consequences that might come with as far as confrontation or things like that because that's what's important. So that's the first thing I'm going to stop doing. I will say something from now on if I feel like I'm being treated a certain way because of my race or suspected of doing things because of my race and so forth. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I'm going to stop caring about what whites think. I think this is a really big problem amongst black people, and it even contributes to those black people who get upset with other black people for not living better. Because the thing is that we subconsciously, I believe, hold whites' opinion of us in such a high esteem that we are constantly trying to do things to make them think better of us. So, for example, I was hosting a meeting and some of the other leaders in the meeting made the suggestion or made the comment that we really are going to have to do our best to start on time because if we don't, white people already think black people are already late all the time. Okay, I was like, what? That I don't like that, and I'm not doing that. It's kind of like we keep re-injuring ourselves, Why do I have to do things because of what whites will think? Now, it's different if I want to do them for me, or I think that that's the best thing to do for the environment or my kids or things like that. But to simply do something because of what whites might perceive of it, I think is to feed their feelings of superiority if they have them, because not all whites have them. And so when you feed into this idea that you need to impress them, and you need to consider how they're going to perceive what you're doing, you are adding to the whole system of systemic racism. And so, like I said, I think this is the reason why some blacks get upset with other blacks because they want to earn their respect. They want to earn a place in the white world. They want to be treated as equal. And then here you have these blacks who are being ghetto and loud and making all these stupid mistakes. They're making you look bad to the white people. And so you get mad at them like, why can't you do better? But the question should be, why do you care so much about what whites think? They're not our God. They are not the determiners of morality. They are not the judges of what you deserve and what you don't deserve. You do things because you want to do them. It doesn't matter what a group or a race of people think. So that is another thing I'm going to stop doing. I have even heard a few people make comments like that even since I've decided that, and I've corrected them and say, don't say that. It doesn't matter what they think. You do what you want to do. You do what you think is best for you. You don't hold yourself under the thumb or the, what's the word? The I don't know, but I hope you get my point. So another thing that I want to stop doing is stop feeding into black stereotypes, which is connected to the other two. A lot of the prejudice that whites have, the ones who have them, because again, let me say not all have them, they come from stereotypes about how black people are, what we think, what we do. And just as these stereotypes have been perpetuated in society and have given other whites the impression that this is how blacks are, it has also done the same thing to blacks. And so blacks, especially since we kind of lost our identity, which I will discuss in a different video, we have subconsciously grabbed onto these erroneous ideas about our culture and adopted them as our own, even though they are not true. And then by believing them, we embody them, we reenact them, we teach them to our children. For example, all blacks are not criminals, are not ghetto, are not loud, are not stupid, are not angry, don't have attitudes, things like that. it's the list is long, and you have a lot of black people that feed into it. For example, even about the comment that I made where, white people, the comment that a friend made, we don't want white people to think black people are always late. I recently heard someone else make the same comment where, us black people were always late. That is not true. Stop. I don't want to keep feeding negative things about feeding myself or my children or my black people with negative ideas about who we are. Yes, there might be some black people that are late. Yes, there might be some black people that are ghetto. Yes, it happens. But are all black people like that? Are all black people preconditioned to be that way? Absolutely not. And we are capable of much more. And if we're going to start saying what black people are like, let's start speaking positive things about each other. Well, black people are strong. We have been through a lot. We survive, we overcome, we keep pushing. Why can't we say that one? Well, black people are really creative, because we are. The words that we use speak volumes, and they help us to form and shape our perception of reality. And so if we're always passing around these negative ideas about black people amongst each other, look at mostly all black movies portray black people in this way. Ghetto, gamblers, goofy, I don't like it. Now, it can be portrayed in some instances. In some instances, it could be true. But we need more positive images of black people, and not to just keep reinforcing these stereotypes that do nothing to help us strengthen our identity, better our communities, and overcome a lot of the racial side effects of this society. And so that's another thing I'm going to stop doing. And when people say things like that to me, I correct them. The fourth thing is I'm going to teach my children. Now, if you think about it, like a lot of these supremacists, white supremacists, even to this day, they are white supremacists because the idea of supremacy was passed down from their families. They were taught about their superiority. They have monuments, they have statues, they have all these things to remind them of who they are. And because of that, they have continued to carry the banner of their supremacy and promote it, and actively try to shift things in their favor. I don't think blacks do this very well. And I don't know if it's because we were just like whites are kind of taught that to talk about race is bad. I don't know if black people subconsciously have picked that up, and so we don't talk about it. But I've talked to my mom, my grandma, my aunties. None of them, and even the men in my family, none of them can tell me that their parents or the elders in their day and age sat down and talked to them about what it means to be black. Sat down and taught them a sense of heritage and pride in who they are, and to make sure they understand that it is their responsibility to carry on the fight of black people. I actually think that after the civil rights movement, a lot of black people got comfortable. We had rights that we had never had before in this country. It might have seemed like we had achieved something and there was nothing much else to fight. I mean, I do think there was some blacks still fighting it, but figures like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they started to drift away. We didn't have those anymore. And as a result, especially in this day and age of technology, you have all of these black kids growing up in a society where they don't understand what it means to be black. You have a lot of black people, even in my generation and beforehand, that didn't have a conscious awareness that it was our responsibility to not just benefit from the hard work of those before us, but to continue it. We're more concerned about paying bills and being comfortable and taking care of our kids, because black life is hard and we struggle. And that's not to say other people's are not hard as well, but our struggles in particular, we're more focused on those things than we have been about fighting for our people, fighting for our future, fighting for our children's future. And so I had conversations with my kids about this before, but I can honestly say that I've never really help them to understand that you have to continue this fight. You have to. You're black. It's for you. We shouldn't ever get so comfortable that we forget that. And so I am going to make sure I instill that in my kids and teach them to instill it in their kids. And so the last thing that I'm going to stop doing, which is connected to the other one, is never forget where I came from. It's very easy, especially in this, like when you raise kids nowadays, you can tell that they don't have a real awareness of appreciation of what has been done for them to get to where they are. They take things for granted because it just seems to just happen to them. They don't think twice about reading a book, not understanding that hundreds of years ago, it was illegal for a black person to even be taught how to read. So it's really easy to take things for granted when you did not put the work in to change it. And so that's why we as black people have to make sure that we never forget the struggles and the price that was paid for us to have what we have, that we always appreciate those things, that we always remember that we have a fight ahead of us, and that that is not a fight that's going to end today, tomorrow, or probably in the next 100 or 50 years. But as long as we keep fighting and remember where we came from, remember who we are, which I would discuss in another video, teach our children, and not stop feeding into these stereotypes and all the other things that I mentioned, we can keep pushing this forward and keep gradually making this world a better place to live in for not just black people, but all minorities and all people, because an equal society benefits whites also. So that's my take on all the things that I'm going to do or stop doing since all of this has started. I'm really passionate about putting these things into action. And when you are able to take action on things, it actually helps you to grow. It makes you feel more empowered, if that's the right word, and it gives your life a little bit more sense of purpose and meaning. So those are my 5 things. If you guys have anything you want to add to my list from your own list, or things that have really impacted you, I would love to hear it. But that's it, because this video is getting pretty long, and you guys have a blessed day. Thank you so much. Bye.